John, I found that from the chat, actually, three major questions. One is a kind of a user point of view for the resilience gap. This is one question. Second one is related to the insurance in United States and also how insurance helps for the recovery. Third one is for the kind of preparedness related to, especially for the keynote from Professor Kobayashi. That is what is a kind of the plan to reflect good practices in the real world into as a kind of the practice or for the other activities, I think. So let me, if of course the questions are very much welcomed to say from the audience. Please put the questions in chat, and then we can take it as if we have time, maybe we can answer that question. Okay. John, maybe let us start with the kind of the first question, user perspectives. How can we reflect user perspectives into the infrastructure resilience? Maybe, Bilal, are you here with us? Not with us?
Okay. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. So thank you very much. And then
thank you.
This may be answered by the Craig or Bilal. I think, Bilal, can you answer for this user perspective questions?
Oh, did you want me to read the question or can you see it?
Please go ahead. I think it would be for the benefit of everybody if you read it.
Yeah, so the question is, define the resilience gap and infrastructure resilience. Do you consider the user's perspective on it? For example, the voice of the people who use such infrastructure, whether they are aware of the potential hazard and proper use of infrastructure under different scenarios.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, I think there are, I know there is research pursuits in this area, basically to bring in the opinions of stakeholders in, it could be in setting performance levels for infrastructure systems. Certainly to bring it all the way to the public, there has to be some orderly process to it. So if you have a city council, let's say, it could be the city council that represents the people that will help to set the policies that will end up affecting utilities and reliability of systems and priorities for the city and so on. But I did have a student who finished his doctorate degree recently, and he did write a paper on how to reflect or how to get the input from stakeholders in the resilience management, let's say. So there are methods. I don't think I have materials to share with you, but I'm happy for the person who asked a question to send a document, a paper that appeared recently in this area. Thank you.
Very nice. Craig, please.
Yeah, I'd like to add to the good statements that Bilal had provided. I would state actually that the entire framework is oriented around ensuring that customers or users get the services from infrastructure systems that they need when they need it. So that's really the core basis of including elements 3 and 4, right? The services from a damaged system. So how do you get them to the community, and which community members need them the most and when, right? Not everything turns out to be needed equally. For example, common phrase that I use is that a bowling alley in a disaster and emergency response is not the same as a hospital. And I think we can all agree on that. We certainly want to restore the bowling alley in due time, but everybody should probably agree that we need water or power to a hospital before we need to worry about getting water or power or even transportation, any of the lifeline systems to the bowling alley. So how do we get the services to the customers when they need them, when a major disaster is in effect, right? So I hope that clarifies in a broad sense how your question relates to the framework.
Okay, thank you. And I see we are getting a few questions in the Q&A as well as the chat, so we'll have a few extra there. So maybe I'll jump to how does insurance help accelerate the recovery? And I can open that up to whoever on the panel would like to take that.
I'm happy to provide brief thoughts. And basically, recovery requires capital. So insurance will enable making that capital available so that immediate actions can be undertaken. So the availability of capital is key in this case.
Yeah. But in Japan, actually, the public services, basically, the funding will be provided by the government. So not many USA, not really very much wider availability for the insurance for the public services. That is also the question from the Japanese participants.
Interesting.
So do you have some particular schemes in the United States for the public works in insurance?
I think overall, when it comes to bridges and roadways and so on, most of the time they are government funded. There are exceptions. There are maybe it could be privately owned or private-public partnership and so on. But it depends on the event. I mean, if we have a nuclear disaster, for example, there is an insurance setting for it. The American nuclear insurer. If there is a major nuclear accident, there is a captive, it's called a captive insurance company. The insurance company is owned by utilities. And basically there is about 10 billion, I think the amount increases every so many years. It's regulated, but there is about maybe $10 billion that will be immediately available to deal with the crisis. And if the money is not enough, then it will go to the public fund and Congress will authorize more money. So it depends on the disaster, it depends on the asset. I could say there is a mixture of things, all the way from private only, public funds, mixed public-private, insurance, and the insurance, there is different types, including catastrophe bonds that where it will end up coming from the financial market.
Yeah.
In fact, if there is an event somewhere in the US or even in Japan, you might have people in other countries paying for it through reinsurance and arrangements of this type.
Right.
So I can add that in addition to bridges, which I think was a specific, I saw that question, specific example, but water, power, public and private can get insurance for disasters, at least to certain degrees, in the context of which Bilal had just described.
Thank you very much. And we have a specific question to Kiyoshi for the one is related to the good preparedness. That in order to prepare for the quicker recovery, then the stocks of previous experience and huge variety of simulation result should be accumulated and would be utilized. Do you have any framework to accumulate these and or good examples about the database, either in Japan or US? This is one question. The other one, maybe let me continue. The other one is from the Reese. That is, you made a presentation, yet you stated the cost of recovery was 10 times the expected amount. In your judgment, how can societies prepare for or become resilient to events that are this extreme? This is a question. So we can, maybe these two related. So please give us your points.
Thank you for your questions. And some audience raise important questions related to user point of view. Okay, and not only users but also non-users. Okay, so we have to take care of their perspectives and their circumstances, okay, and provoke public awareness against disasters. Okay, and we have a lot of communications with users and non-users. What, in short, I wish to say human being societies. Okay, and so far, say our approaches to disaster management. We say it is we have to take care of the uncertainty risks, but real methodology is very much deterministic. Okay, we prepare, some, for example, rainfall patterns. Okay, and we make simulations, and for which kind of say damage will occur given the scenarios. Okay, and this is a very deterministic way. Okay, now, a lot of say, informations, okay, by use of big simulations, okay, and huge amount of the rainfall patterns, can be calculated, just now. Okay, and we have to say innovate a new methodology to cope with the variety of informations. Okay, and that is what we call necessity of big simulations. Okay, and now high-speed computers. Okay, very say powerful computer has become available. Okay, and so we can make a lot of simulations. Okay, and we have to evaluate, a lot of the varieties. Okay, so then, it's the time, we have the tool to expect unexpected. Okay, the delay of the recoveries. Okay, of course, driven by the big disasters, area-wide and area-wide damage of the disasters. Okay, and company networks, society network will be damaged. But we have to make, say, simulation in advance to prepare, for unforeseen, unexpected disasters. Okay, now it's a good time, to start to initiate, say, much wider, and area-wide investigations of infrastructure recoveries. Okay, and today's, IR ASC/JSC framework on the infrastructure resilience. Okay, it will provide a very integrated, comprehensive scheme, to initiate new researches, okay, under the big data arena, okay, and the recovery speed, okay, infrastructure recovery is very quick, okay, and to decrease, social damage, economic damage, we have to accelerate, say, recovery speed of the infrastructures, and it's followed by economic recoveries. Okay, economic recovery also, okay, has to be fast, quickened. But social damage, okay, society recovery is very slow, okay, and now it's a time, to think about, society recoveries, okay, and in this perspective, okay, we just standing at the
Very unfortunate.
Internet issue. Let's see. Well, we'll give him a second. Otherwise, I'll jump to the next question and see if we get Professor Kobayashi back here. So this one, I'm going to combine several questions related to interdependency. I think Mori-san perhaps characterized it best. There's many types of infrastructure. Craig showed the infrastructure resilience domain, the various social infrastructures reflected in the access system. And each domain is in a box. And what he is asking is, it appeared in the framework with the structure of the framework that these were being represented as being independent, but in fact, we know they're interdependent. So how does the framework handle the interdependencies across all the infrastructure, but also the other domains?
Let me take at least a first shot at that, and maybe others can fit in. Oh, we have Professor Kobayashi back.
Greg, I'm sorry. We'll let him finish and then jump back if that's okay.
That's fine. That's what I wanted to know.
Please go ahead, Kobayashi Sensei.
Oh, I forgot when my Wi-Fi broken down. Okay. Anyhow, infrastructure recovery has to be quickened. Okay, it's the first priority has to be attached to the infrastructure recovery. In this sense, say JC, SC, collaborations is very, variable. Okay, and economic recovery will follow the infrastructure recovery, but the society recovery take a long time. Okay, and the framework, provides a very informative, informative guidelines where, say our research activity has to hedge it, okay? And we understand, still, research on social recovery is very unmatured, okay? That is my quick reactions to the question. Okay, thank you.
Craig, if you want to continue on the interdependence question, please.
Well, I'll start because I didn't really get started. So thank you for the question. I noticed there were several related, and so thank you, Professor Mori, for sending the question. Let me start with that cube that actually all of us ended up showing. We recorded these, by the way, independently, so we didn't know that everybody was showing the same figure multiple times. But that cube originally was to identify the domain of infrastructure resilience so that people could understand what we mean by the phrase or the term infrastructure resilience as compared to social resilience or economic resilience, right? We were not communicating well. So we in the infrastructure resilience division created this three-dimensional diagram to show what's most important. It's the systems, it's the hazards, and it's the response recovery and so on, the domain for after the event, preparing for and after the event. So the playing out of the axes. That is useful for understanding the basis of the framework, and it does break them apart independently to show that you might want to focus only on electric power, you might want to only focus on water, but we do fully understand that they are interdependent. So the interdependence comes after you identify what infrastructure systems are being evaluated. So in the analysis section, the top part of the framework that I showed, and the hazards affecting them, each will be affected independently, but yet together, right? So the electric power could be damaged. If it's an earthquake, a transformer might fall over independent of a water system, but the water system pipes might be broken independent of the power system. And to generate power, you need the water, and to create the water, you might need the power. So they're affected separately, but together. Right, so you need to look at both. First, how is the fragility of each system, their components, and the system as a whole affected by the hazard? And in the framework, you will see right after element 2. So what I've actually been talking about is element 2. The box of the cube is in element 1. And then right after element 2, we have a point, and I described it in my presentation. There's an arrow saying that there's interdependencies. So think of the performance or the functionality of each system independently first, but then if you have a whole series of these coming out of the plane, think of them and how they interlink into and out of the paper by these interdependencies that you're referring to. And that's what needs to be assessed to identify the performance as a whole, so that you can go to element 4 to see how can the services actually be provided by these systems in support of the community. So that was a little lengthy, but it's a really complicated system. And so it is incorporate or set of systems and interdependencies. And so the framework doesn't handle models. It sets a framework for which modeling could be used to understand how all the elements work together. So the modeling gets very complicated and difficult to even understand. There's a lot of work and interdependencies that need to be undertaken, but that's how, hopefully I explained clearly how it is incorporated into the framework.
Yeah, I see. The interdependency between the infrastructure and the recovery speed, that is one of the key themes for the even after disaster. In Japan also, we have been conducting a survey and develop a model for that. And then that can be integrated in the future for the kind of the manual practice or some sessions in this. I think Stephanie Chan and Yoshio Kajitani is presenting their topics, but I think they have some experience dealing with that. So I guess they may also make the question, answers for your the questions in the day two, after day two presentations, I hope. Okay, then John, how can we proceed for, should we have another question to take or?
Yeah, I think Masa, I think maybe one last question, if that sounds okay.
Yes, yes, please.
Okay, would you like me to go ahead? I think there's one question in the Q&A asking regarding the framework, and maybe this Craig and Bilal and others, maybe this comes back to your recent answer that it doesn't actually handle the models, but perhaps you could highlight that a little bit. This last question, the required framework may be different between the US and Japan because of the significant difference in land size between the US and Japan. The US government, after a disaster, can send a team to other states and help out. And whereas in Japan, this may be difficult, for example, for a severe Tokyo earthquake. Could you maybe, perhaps we could get one US respondent and then Professor Kobayashi could also respond, and we could hear each perspective on that.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Do you want me to start? I have a concept on that. Bilal might want to add. I'll keep it short. The framework in this context is scalable. So I would not say that the framework would be different. You would utilize the framework differently, would be the way I would phrase that. Because the framework should be scalable to the ability of the country to, or the region to actually provide the resources, right? So the framework would be able to account for the fact that you have limited resources or potentially unlimited resources. I'll leave it at that and see if Bilal wants to add from the US side, and certainly give time for Professor Kobayashi to respond.
Craig, I think you covered it very well. I mean, the framework is designed to accommodate US, Japan, and other countries. I mean, I don't see the framework would require changes. The way you apply it will be under different constraints. So the constraints are, if the constraints are different across countries, the available options for managing the resilience and dealing with it will end up being either different, or the economics of it will end up being different, leading to different solutions. But the framework, I think, will be intact. The same thing with the manual of practice. I think the way Craig described the framework and the way I covered the manual of practice, we covered all the dimensions and the considerations that somebody should consider in dealing with the resilience needs of a community. So these are different dimensions, but how they are treated in each country might vary.
Yeah, I think, system integrations is very important, especially for this country, Japan's. Okay, and all discussions related to information, sometimes they compartmentalize okay, that this also authority is divided into separated entities. And there are few, say, integrated discussions across the border. Okay, system integrations. Okay, it's say necessary. Okay, this is say a shortcoming. You know, what has been unveiled by outbreak of COVID-19. Okay, our say societies, say activities, okay, to cope with outbreak of COVID is very slow. Okay, delivery of the vaccinations, medicines, still very slow. Okay, it is now right time, you know, to start, you know. So some system thinking, how to integrate, you know, say system of the infrastructure, okay, and transcendental, you know, authority to cope with, say, very huge risks, disaster risks. Okay, it's the right time. Even, you know, brainstorming, okay, brain simulations, we have to state, you know, this is the reason why I'm strongly motivated to discuss, you know, say, infrastructure resilience researches in these countries, okay? And I very much anticipate, you know, say, society will change given the impact of this project. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the time is up. So we have several questions left over, but these questions are answered after this sessions. Maybe Masa will inform in what way we can deal with the questions. And but before that, I would like to invite John to make a statement to close this panel discussion.
Thank you. Well, first, I want to, you know, please join me in virtually thanking our three keynote speakers and our hosts in Kyoto. And I think it's exciting to see so many interesting questions. And I think infrastructure resilience, community resilience, and resilience in general is a topic that began many years ago in ecology and has worked its way into engineering and into the social sciences. And so it's exciting to see so many attendees. And we look forward to hosting you this coming Thursday or Friday morning, depending on your location. And then again, 2 weeks later. So thank you.
Masa, please.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mm.
So that's all for the day one session. So we would like to close today's session. So thank you very much again for your kind attention. And please kindly keep your attention for our activity. We will have a day 2 session the day after tomorrow. So please join again. So that's all. So
one is the questions still
okay,
answered. Yes.
So still we have a clear idea how to deal with the question, but thank you very much for your all question, and we try to convey the answer for the remaining question on the web page, but still we will discuss on the matter. Okay.
So anyway, through web or some emails, whatever, maybe we may try to answer these questions you provided during these discussions. Thank you very much. Masa, please close this session. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you very much. So that's all. That's closing of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
See you the day after tomorrow.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
We'll see you. Bye-bye.